Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
It's the Morning Sports Desk on a Friday, the 21st of February. I'm CJ Baumgartner. That's Corey Tackman. Corey, we are officially in full playoff swing.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me?
I'm not kidding you, Corey. We're in the middle of stuff. Boys hockey playoffs is running through. Obviously, we had section wrestling tournament last week. Girls basketball playoff starts next week. Boys the week after. But today is section individual wrestling day, and that's going on as we speak.
And well underway. We're, of course, going to have coverage of the finals later this evening. Or I should say later this afternoon. Coverage is going to start with Kyle and Dan about 4 o'clock, and they'll kind of recap the day. And then at 4:30 is the rough estimate for the schedule of the finals and to figure out, and true seconds to figure out who's going to go and represent their schools individually at the state wrestling tournament. So pretty exciting stuff happening with that. And I mean, whatever. I have nothing more to say that hasn't already been said a dozen times. We're officially in it. It's tournament season. It's postseason. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me?
Yeah, full stuff coming next week. It's really cool to get those individual tournaments going again. And obviously with the state wrestling tournament coming up next week, Corey, we'll talk about it more when it gets closer, but it's one of our most listened to sports broadcasts of the year, and for good reason. And it's always really cool to see everybody kind of rally together around the broadcast, and what a great job Kyle and Dan do doing that. And of course, the kids who are down at the X doing all that stuff. So wrestling is very hectic in the moment, but for broadcast purposes, but when it's on and when Kyle and Dan are going, it's a really good product being put out there, and it helps that the kids wrestle so well to help as well. But like you said, Corey, Kyle and Dan got coverage of the individual tournament this afternoon, and then the state tournament next week is just a really fun broadcast to get to put together on our station. So we're in it. We're here. And of course, girls basketball playoffs start next week, but we got to wrap up the regular season, and we are doing that tonight on the Superstation K-106, 105.9 FM, also streaming online at WDenaRadio.com WDenaRadio.com and the Superstation K-106 mobile app. It is Wadena Deer Creek hosting Frazee. The Wolverines on the season are 16-9. They're 3-7 in Section 8 AA play. They're taking on, again, fellow opponent, the Frazee Hornets, fellow section opponent. They're 6-9 in the section is Frazee, 12-12 overall on the season. These two teams, playoff seeding could be impacted here. Wadena Deer Creek has an 82.3 QRF. That's good enough right now for 9th in the section. Frazee is sitting in that 10 spot, and Frazee is a 79.1 QRF. Now, that's decided by a few points, but a tiebreaker head-to-head could really help kind of shift things in favor of the Hornets if they're looking to jump Frazee. For Wadena Deer Creek, right now it's looking like Thief River Falls is going to be their opponent in that first round of the section tournament, although there is still a couple things that do need to happen, so nothing is for sure. But if you're the Wolverines, it's unlikely that you can jump the Prowlers at this point, but not out of the realm of possibility. Getting a section win would certainly help kind of boost your cause a little bit here. For the Wolverines, they finished 11-13 in the Park Region Conference. That's good enough for third place. New York Mills, number 1. Monaga, number 2 in that one. Frazee finished towards the bottom of the Heart of Lakes Conference, but it's just excellent this year. So that doesn't tell the full story. You have a 3-way tie for the Heart of Lakes with DGF, Pelican Rapids, and Barnesville all claiming the top spot. Breckenridge at 10-4, Perham at 9-6, Hawley 7-8, and then Frazee at 6-10. Park Rapids area 2-12, Staples Motley 0-15, kind of rounding out that conference stuff there. For the Hornets, they are 6-5 on the road, and for the Wadena Deer Creek Wolverines on their home floor this season, they are 8-3. Going to be played at the elementary school gym tonight because obviously there's wrestling going on all day at the middle high school. So it'll be a fun one. Should be a fun little environment there in the gym. That is a 7:15 pregame, 7:30 tip-off time on the Superstation K-106. And, of course, with playoffs coming up.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me?
The place to go, Corey, is WDenaRadio.com to check out the full broadcast schedule. And, of course, following Sports Cow on Facebook.
Moo.
All right, we have a little bit more to talk about in our Mount Rushmore Fridays. But before we do that, Corey, the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade helps bring us the morning sports desk each and every day. And, well, we need to shout out the great work that Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena does.
They do great work, and it starts with the buffet. More pizza, more chicken, unbelievable value. Why choose when you could have it all with the Pizza Ranch? Endless beverages, all-you-can-eat pizza, chicken, fresh salad bar. Don't forget about the delicious desserts as well. Stop in, have a little something to eat. And for the weekend, it's going to be beautiful this weekend, temperature-wise. So get out to the Pizza Ranch, and then celebrate the warm weather in the FunZone Arcade. Pizza Ranch doing it right each and every single day in FunZone Arcade in Wadena, with delicious food and great fun, and the morning sports desk each and every single weekday as well. Thank you, Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade and the morning sports desk.
Okay, Corey. So as we get ready for a Mount Rushmore Friday, just want to kind of establish the Four Nations face-off happened yesterday. The U.S. lost, so that thing is dead to me. I don't even care about it anymore. It was stupid to begin with. But looking over at the Minnesota Timberwolves, they get ready to go back in action tonight. I believe they get their second half of the season going. Is that correct? Yeah,
they go to Houston tonight, 8:30 tip.
Houston, 8:30. Oh, yeah, it's on ESPN tonight. So there you go.
That's exciting.
They get the late game. Yeah, it's exciting. They start at 8:30. Then maybe I can catch the second half after I do the game tonight. So
yeah, no, it's cool when two teams in the Central get to start at 8:30. We love it.
Two teams in the Central time zone get a tip off where most people are going to bed. That's
great.
Awesome. Awesome. Also, that way we could get some random Eastern Conference rivalry that's not that good.
Exactly.
Great job, guys. Great job as always. I can't wait for the playoffs once again. And it's an ESPN tip-off, which means 8:30 is actually like 8:39, because why start it on time and tell people it's at a certain time if you're just gonna whatever.
Well, they can't start it till the first game's over.
Well, and of course they promise because they do a pregame show, but then there's the actual broadcast, and they have some sponsors that they need to get through at the beginning of the broadcast, but before the tip-off, that they promise they get in that time slot, because people will be waiting for the game to start. And they know that they're not going to change a channel, so you can squeeze in a few more advertising dollars. Anyway, the Wild get things going as well over the weekend. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing really too big to report, which means that we don't have a ton of state sports to talk about today, but we got you covered with Mount Rushmore Friday. Now, Corey, this is obviously a time where we like to look into Mount Rushmore things in Minnesota sports, and I think that is important. But today, I want to expand our horizons just a little bit. Is that okay?
Please.
Okay, so you know who Kyle Hamilton is, correct?
Yeah, the guy the Vikings didn't draft?
Yes, the guy the Vikings didn't draft, and everybody wants to make a big point here about that in Vikings land. But what if we go, instead of talking about him, we in his play on the field, we talk about what he said on social media. So here's what Kyle Hamilton had to say. He said, and I quote, "I'm not trying to be political, but if all 45 presidents were in a Royal Rumble, who would win?" Now, I think it's technically 46 presidents, but the point still stands. If all of the presidents,
45, because Grover counted twice, but
yes, that is correct. Yep. Okay, yep, you're right. Yeah. After the most recent news, Grover Cleveland kind of had his whole flow stolen. So
that's stupid that we count him this way, by the way. Like, he's right. He's right. We've had 45 presidents. Donald Trump is not the 47th president.
Right. Anyway, get it right.
If that's the case, then Biden should have been the 46th and 47th. You know what I mean?
Right. Like
he only had one term. Who was the last two-termer?
Obama.
was Obama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's 42 and 43 right there or whatever.
Exactly.
What do I know?
Like that's the 43rd term. I was the president of the 43rd term of the executive branch or something.
Yeah, FDR gets
FDR.
4 numbers. That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. So anyway, if you compiled all 45 U.S. presidents into a Royal Rumble, what is your Mount Rushmore? Let's kind of break down who is the Mount Rushmore of 4 guys you would expect to kind of make it through the hay out of all of those.
Okay,
so we'll kind of go back and forth here.
I have a clear number 1. I'm going to save my number 1 for last.
Okay, sounds good. I'll do that too.
Okay, I'll start with what I think is the wild card of the bunch.
Okay.
I don't mean wild card because it's a controversial pick. I mean this guy is personally a wild card.
Okay.
Andrew Jackson.
Oh, you took my good one. I was thinking of him too.
Andrew Jackson was a total complete mess, and all that guy wanted to do was fight and kill just about everyone.
Killed a man in a duel.
Yeah. Andrew Jackson was a huge problem and is problematic historical figure. And he's not like the most stout, you know what I mean?
Right.
But he's Napoleon complex guy. He's the guy who, if you bump him in a bar, he's going to punch you in the face and then ask what's going on.
Right. Uh-huh.
So Andrew Jackson's my number 1.
Battle of New Orleans hero.
First choice. He's my first choice.
Okay, good. I think on this list too, I'm going to go out of the gates with somebody I think that's pretty expected. Teddy Roosevelt, definitely on this list.
Now you just took, I have to cut you off. That's my number 1 answer. He's winning the whole thing.
Okay, my number 1's a little bit different. We'll get to him in a second. But Teddy Roosevelt, obviously, man's man, going around the world on hunting trips, doing stuff, got shot, given a speech, got up, realized it wasn't fatal, finished giving the speech, and then wrecked the guy who tried to shoot him. I was like, what are you doing?
Yep.
Idiot, get good. One of the toughest dudes to ever become president of the United States.
In my opinion, the toughest.
Yeah.
The Rough Riders, for crying out loud, is what he called himself and his gang. He is, I think Teddy walks away with the victory in this one. With a contention from who I have at number 2.
Yeah. Okay. So looking at a few other kind of presidents going down the line, can I just say, which president I think would actually be most likely, probably like one of
to win?
No. Like one of the worst. Like I just want to give like
the worst is William Henry Harrison.
Yes, that's who I was going to go as my worst too. Why would you say he's the worst, Corey?
Because he couldn't even beat a virus.
No, he gave his presidential inauguration address in the rain for too long. He's like, no, we're still good. Gave a long speech, like talked for hours, and then got hypothermia and died.
Yeah.
Good job, guy.
Yeah, he got pneumonia in the 1800s and died.
I also think we got to exclude a couple presidents from this list. I think this should also be mentioned. One, I think you got to exclude Trump for the fact that he already has been on a WWE sanctioned event, so he just doesn't count.
The question is, how do you approach this as wrestling is real, or do you approach this as like this is actually a bare knuckle fight?
Probably a little, because I said Royal Rumble and not wrestling match. We're going to lean into the showy part of it a little bit.
Well, then all of my answers are wrong.
No. Your answer, they still would be there.
I answered like this is an MMA, like an actual people. Because if this is a real fight, Trump's not winning.
Yeah, right.
He's huge, but so he might throw a couple people around, but that dude's way too out of shape.
Zachary Taylor's not winning. He was too old. Joe Biden's not winning this. He was too old. Like you can go along the presidents that were very of age when they took office.
There are, I would say most of the modern ones I would not consider. Like, I think people regard Obama as one of the more athletic presidents ever, but that dude also smoked like a chimney. So that works against him also.
That's not helping your cause.
If this is pure circus WWE Royal Rumble, then Donald Trump's your number 1.
And that's why I took him off the list, because he already was on it. He already beat up Vince McMahon. That already counts. You can't quite count that. But going down on my list of people who I think would end up doing pretty well, again, this leans into a little bit of the showy aspect. You got to go Taft, right? Nobody's moving that guy.
Oh, so I thought of him right away, but I don't think. No, I don't think you can. I think the guy got stuck in a bathtub.
No, that never happened, though. That actually never happened.
CJ, the fact that it exists is evidence enough that guy's not winning a fight.
No, but try moving him. Try moving him. He's in the middle. Like, he's in the middle of the ring.
If that guy falls down, you just roll him out.
If you can move him.
He's blown up like Violet Beauregard and Willy Wonka. You just roll him out of there. I don't think so. Is he your second answer? He's your Mount Rushmore?
Yes, he is.
He is. Okay. Oh no, I disagree completely.
Well, we can't have our list be the same. Then that's boring.
I know you already took my number one answer too. Next on my list is Ulysses S. Grant.
That's a good one.
I think just for the obvious reasons that we know about Ulysses S. Grant and what he had to do during the Civil War and things like that. Those guys are lunatics, every single one of them. And wasn't he like a pretty heavy drinker?
Yes, he was. Yes,
you put that disregard for all humankind with that level of alcohol consumption. I think Ulysses S. Grant is number 2 on my list.
Yeah, no, I think that works.
I'm working in reverse order.
I debated on putting Grant on my list. I left him off, but only because I think I'm kind of going into the. I'm going to lean a little bit more modern, but I'm going to lean into like Dwight D. Eisenhower. I think would be
good.
World War II general. That guy saw some stuff. That guy has been a little battle tested, if you will. So I have Eisenhower on my list.
So I'll use that to lean into one of my honorable mentions.
Okay.
Of course, been JFK for what like that sort of military stuff too, and what he had to go through. If McCain ever was president, you'd put him right at the top because that's one tough SOB. But also, physically pretty beat up by that. By the time you're getting around to a Royal Rumble, you know.
Well, he was pretty old too by the time he ran for president. So like him in 2008 is not the same as him in like the 1970s. You
can't lift your arms above your shoulders. You're not going to be able to. You're going to have to kick your way out of it, I guess is the point.
Yeah, exactly. It's not gonna end up well for you. So, okay, good. That's the next one on the list.
So give me your recap. Have you given me 2 names so far?
I've given you Teddy Roosevelt, I believe, and then I've also given you Dwight Eisenhower and then Taft.
And so you have given 3.
Yes.
Okay. I have Andrew Jackson, number 4, Ulysses S. Grant, number 3. Teddy Roosevelt is my number 1 answer. Do you want to go? Do you have one more then?
I have an honorable mention quick before I give my number 1.
Okay.
And I debated putting him on my list because actually he is considered one of the most athletic presidents of all time, and that's Gerald Ford.
Great answer.
He was a star football. He was like, he chose not to play football and instead went into politics. Like he was a guy who I think got contract offers from like the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, that's a really good answer.
To play football. But football doesn't always equal wrestling. So the crossover, you can debate that. Plus, it's more fun to put Taft on there because he's just a big dude.
Gerald Ford's a great answer. So one of the things that was difficult about this is I generally regard the older guys as tougher, but then when you sit down and think about them, a lot of them were actually like dignitaries.
Right. Like the first, like George Washington, military general, but then after it's a lot of nerds, right? It's a lot of like
a ton of them. There are a lot of guys who like, fetch me my coat. There are a lot of
philosophers. Yeah.
Well, Thomas Jefferson, you can't put on there. Any of the Adams,
yeah,
put on there. Like there's a whole host of folks. It
takes a little bit to get to like military. Once you get past George Washington, it takes a while to get like back to Andrew Jackson for military, and then you don't swing back to military until Zachary Taylor.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So, but also some of the new guys, like some of the modern ones, are politicians.
Right.
And I don't put politicians high on the like physically tough list.
No, that's why they're politicians.
Unless Jesse Ventura would have won. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a few But anyway, you mentioned his name here. He's my number 2. I think clearly, and I have to put George Washington on the list.
Ooh, George Washington's a good one. See, I think I thought about putting old Georgie on there, but then I was like, he probably would get a lot of stalling if this was an actual wrestling match. He would get a lot of stalling calls, I think.
Yeah, I think, what was he like? 6'2". He had teeth made out of lead. I mean, he was a bona fide crazy person who never spoke and never smiled and he just was, but he was like on the front of the boat crossing the Delaware. Like I think he was a crazier person than we're led to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And
his military prowess, the more you read about George Washington, like you think like, oh, he's this great strategist. And he was actually a horrible strategist, but he was really good at listening to the people in his inner circle, and that's what made him really good. Yeah.
Turns out that's a decent leader. But I think for like stature wise, we talked about Taft and some of these other guys. Like,
he looks good in the military uniform.
He's going to be one of the more demanding guys to just I got to go up against that dude, which is why Gerald Ford it's probably the best one. We probably did Gerald Ford dirty.
We probably did. I'll swap him out for Taft. Are we allowed to do that?
I think so. I think that's the right move.
Get out of here, fatso. Go back. Go run a lap around the White House, man, or something. So
who's your number 1?
My number 1 in this list is Abraham Lincoln.
You think so?
He was an actual wrestler.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's
an actual
fine.
wrestler.
That's fine.
Wrestling was his thing.
He's gonna get lit up. He's gonna get lit. Was he good at wrestling?
Yeah, that was like most notably, he was good at lawyering and wrestling.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay. That's fine. I'll give it to you. I have nothing against Abe. I think he's probably regarded as the greatest president of all time, and I'm not going to say anything bad about him, but he would be 4th on my list, I guess. You don't think Teddy's just taken Abe to the cleaners?
There's a good chance, but I think Abe's got I think because he's wrestled a lot more. Like Teddy's going to use brute strength. Abe's going to have a little more like mental game to kind of like.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair.
If it was a one-on-one, Teddy is going to try and overpower Abe, and Abe's going to figure out a way to last long enough to tire him out, and then kind of find some sneaky move to come away with the win. He'll win by points. He won't win by like a pin.
He is going to have a better reach, that's for sure. He's going to have the greatest reach of everybody. I think that we
forget Abe Lincoln was a big dude.
I don't think we forget. I think most people know.
Most people forget.
I tell you what, you get 5 Abe Lincolns, you could win a lot of championships.
You win a lot of wrestling matches. I tell you what. Okay. I think these lists are good.
Let's combine them here. Teddy and Abe are number 1, so they have to go on.
Gerald Ford has to go on because we let him back into the list.
I think he was a Division I football player.
Yeah,
gonna crush people. So now it comes down to Washington, Jackson, Grant. Anybody else?
I think that's it. I would say probably between Jackson and Grant because I also had Eisenhower.
Eisenhower.
And I would say between Jackson and Grant because they're both lunatics.
I think we already have a generational period with Abe, so let's not give Grant.
Right.
Give it to Grant. Let's go to a different generation.
Played in a different era, Grant was only going against plumbers and electricians and stuff like that.
Like Abe.
Yeah.
If Ulysses S. Grant was in a Royal Rumble, he would have been beaten out by Abe Lincoln.
Exactly.
So I think you have to give it to Andrew Jackson, who is a certified maniac.
Right. War hero, maniac, tons of stuff.
No regard for human life.
Like Kevin Harlan's quote, but it's not about dunking on a guy. It's about literally he has no regard for human life.
Yeah. It's like mass murder. No regard for human life.
No regard at all. Several different things you could look at that when you say that statement. Well, what do you mean by that? There's the fact that we have to say, well, it depends. There's multiple.
You know what we mean by that. Teddy, Abe, Gerald Ford, and Andrew Jackson.
I like that list.
I do too. That's a.
Who do you think comes out on top of that 4?
I think it's Teddy. I think nobody in the history of the presidency has been physically tougher than the dude spent his winters in Western North Dakota and Eastern Montana in like tent. Guy's a maniac. I'll go Lincoln because he was my number 1, but only to be different from you, just for the sake of parody. But yeah, and the fact that, again, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like Lincoln's got a trick or two up his sleeve. Dude's a good lawyer. He's smart. He's also got a little bit of brutish stuff. He's got the frame to match up at least enough with Roosevelt to where he could get it close and then try and outsmart him. There's a number of guys here too that, like, had they become president, would I think Alexander Hamilton would be really high on this list. That dude was pretty feisty. But yeah, a lot of them are like Ben Franklin would have sucked. Yeah, he would have not been good.
No, that would have been less than ideal, I think.
John McCain is probably winning the whole thing.
Yeah, he'd be up there.
But yeah, there's just a few, like Bill Clinton's not. What's he gonna do? Hit you in the head with a saxophone? Get out of here.
Yeah. Probably. I had a professor in college who did a really good Bill Clinton impression. I tried to pick up a little bit of it.
I didn't know you had that in the bag. I didn't know you had a 1-second Bill Clinton impression.
That's it. That's the only second that'll ever happen. That's the only one you're getting.
Awesome.
All right. This show has gone off the rails. I think it's probably about time we end it. This is the Morning Sports Desk powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. I'm CJ. That's Corey. See you.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.